Hi, I'm Danny Ramos, and welcome to this week's edition of Hispanic Speak Out TV, brought to you every week on Bright House Cable, Channel 49, 9:30 p.m. on Tuesdays. The elections are coming up, and I got the two best guys to talk to you about elections and all of the baloney that's going down against the Hispanic community in Central Florida by the supposed supporters of the Hispanic community. These two guys are all in the know of what's going on underground, underneath the table in politics in Central Florida. I got Tony Suarez here. You know Tony Suarez is a radio host on 1030 Radio, Spanish language radio, a very powerful station here in Central Florida. And he's also a law professor. He's a former elected official in the state legislative body, and also he is an attorney right here on Colonial. And we also have James Auffant, who is a committeeman for the Democratic Party here in Orange County. He's also an attorney. How are we doing, guys? How we doing?
Hanging in there, hanging in there.
Listen, I heard that Jose Fernandez is back online after that travesty he had, an investigation with the FDLE, and he's now making moves to destroy the Hispanic community's chances of having its own congressional district. Is that true?
Wow. Wow. He didn't take no time in getting into that one, did he?
No. But you've been more to those meetings than I have, so
Yeah.
I'll let you go first.
Jose Fernandez is the appointee of Lou Damiani, the current incumbent, appointed by the governor to County Commission 3. So he has nothing to do with the Congress, has to do with the County Commission.
Okay.
The Hispanic community pretty much unanimously, you could say, has been lobbying to have a district drawn that would be a minority-majority district as defined by the 1965 Civil Rights Act. Jose Fernandez, being a political appointee of Lou Damiani, who is not Hispanic, who would be the representative of this new would-be district, voted against the creation of such a district, which would seem to be in opposition to what 99% of the Hispanic community wants.
Well, that's not unusual for that guy.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to take a position. I can say that he may have actually believed that he was voting in the best interest of the community. But as I said to him when I was testifying as counsel to this group called the Central Florida Redistricting Council, I think he was acting in the interest of the political appointee who appointed him, and I think that's what his real take. That's my personal point of view.
And what about you? How do you see it, Jimmy?
It's undefensible. I can't believe that Ms. Whitney, the attorney for the county, is not saying to you, people, this will not fly. You're trying to take your map, the one that the second map that we need to discuss, puts District 3, which for the last 16 years has been electing an Hispanic American for that position, Mary Johnson, Mildred Fernandez, who is with 44%. That map says, no, we're going to go from 44%, instead of going up, even though the Hispanic population has grown, we're going to go down to what is 34?
35.
35. We're going down 9% of the, and I hate to say this as an attorney, it's indefensible. There's no way you can really go to court and defend that and say, by the way, let me show you why we should be reducing the predominantly Hispanic district numbers lower. I mean,
yeah, you know what, I would say to you, beside attacking Jose for his political point of view, what's really upsetting is the lawyer, who just indicated, Ms. Whitney. How could she have advised this council that going down in percentage-wise in that particular district, the only district that has elected Hispanic, is defensible? It clearly is not. That's the same kind of advice that Osceola County was getting when they refused to move toward the single-member districts, and they were being advised by the lawyers they could continue doing the old way. They had to go to the lawsuit. They had to spend millions of dollars in defending themselves, and then they lost.
No, they got whipped.
And they got whipped. So now it seems it's going to happen again with some other law. And you know what concerns me? Because I can understand, people have different political points of view. We have different political points of view. But the law is really clear in this area. Right. And that should not be a political view of law, because it's just not the way it is. And I think that's wrong. So you're saying this is all discriminatory, it's going to go into federal court?
It's
going to go into federal court because the 1965 Civil Rights Act clearly states that in order to ensure that minorities have a voice, that where you can, you should be able to draw minority access seats. And so they didn't do that. In fact, they were, as Jimmy was just saying, they were trying to go in the opposite direction, which was to dilute. And clearly, you cannot dilute the voting power of minority
I mean,
groups.
there's a track record in this district that for the last 16 years they have elected Hispanic. This is an Hispanic district. I mean, and you're going to say, by the way, we're going to take this district and we're going to reduce the Hispanic population based on what? The only effect it has, it basically takes away the ability of Hispanics of having proper representation in the commission. And it surprises me that Ms. Whitney didn't say, by the way, this can't fly. If you take this to the board, I'm going to advise the board that they cannot vote for this because this will be a guarantee.
Well, whose pocket is she in?
You know, to be quite honest, I think she's more. She was put in that position. I don't think she's reread the law. I know she's been calling some people in town. Look, there's a few of us, like Tony and myself, who know this law back and forth. Okay? So when you talk to one of us, you talk to all. And I know that she's been calling people because she's not familiar with this law. She would just say, you're going to have this.
But how do you stand up and take a position if you're an intelligent person and a
Yeah,
reasonable
but
person?
she's a government employee, and so she wants to do. She's a lawyer, but for the county, she works for the county. She wants to do what the county bosses want her to do.
Okay, so
instead of
who's behind
standing up.
this? Who's pushing her buttons?
Well, the county commissions who are interested. Remember, let's go back.
What's the name?
What happens here? Well, right now, all the county commissioner incumbents want to protect their district, right? They know who they want. So in District 3, Lou Damiani, who's an appointed position, he's not elected, never was elected, he's got appointed there as a result of Mildred Fernandez's arrest, right? So now he's in a district which is heavily Hispanic. The Hispanic community is asking to increase the proportion of Hispanics in that
by
district.
6%.
By 6%. And they're actually moving it backwards.
By 9.
By 9. So that
And Jose Fernandez is involved in backing this guy.
supporting that position.
Basically, his map was the one that got through. Let's be honest. It was his map. And you know, and the surprising thing is that this proves what I've been saying. You know, I'm not sure what the numbers are, but this is, you know, legally, let's take apart that I'm Hispanic. I'm going to be just a lawyer. You're going to go to court and say, look, we reduced the number of Hispanic population. We made a line that effectively makes it lower. And by the way, the area that we added, if in growth in 10 years will make it more white than Hispanic. So by the way, this is all okay. There's no problem. There is no hidden agenda. Look, it's like I had a law professor in law school used to tell me, if your wife sees you talking to another woman, what's her first question? Who is she and what are you doing talking to her? Because she thinks that you're cheating on her. This is what we call in the legal profession an appearance of impropriety. And there's an appearance of impropriety. There's a prima facie case they're going to go say, we're questioning this reduction of Hispanic population. We have a track record where we can prove you that with 44% we can elect our own. We've been doing this for 16 years. Not 2, not 4, 16 years. You take Mary Johnson's 8, you take Mildred Fernandez's 8. And it's been proven ever since it was created in Hispanic district. So to reduce it, it must benefit somebody else, but it doesn't benefit the Hispanic community.
Yeah, and in the jargon of the civil rights law, it's a dilution of the voting power. So when you have a practice and procedure, which is dividing the districts, a practice and procedure, and that practice and procedure has the effect of diluting the minority vote, that's a violation of the civil rights law.
And basically, what surprises me is that this was not the only map that proposed. There was another map that was eliminated that was similar to this, and I think even went further down in District 3. The question here has always been, people, what is that attorney doing sitting there saying, hey, there's nothing wrong with this map. And I would like to go, when this goes to before of the county commission, I'm going to go there and say, by the way, if you really got to consider this map, you might want to reserve $2.5 million because you're going to be sued and you're going to lose this. So, because I'm not sure what your attorney is telling you, but as an attorney who's been involved with this, I can tell you this does not pass.
When will this meeting take place?
That has not been scheduled yet.
Not been scheduled yet, as far as I know. Yeah.
It hasn't, and it might take a different thing. If somebody here helps us and gets Mildred to get acquitted before that meeting, and Mildred goes back and sits on that commission, I would love to be there.
That would be something.
I would love to be there.
When is Mildred going up for?
Well, October 31st is when I'm going to try.
Really? How long do you think the hearing?
It'll be
takes
about
place?
10 days.
So we're going to November 10th, something like that.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah, well, hey, we never know. Today's October, whatever.
Well, obviously the other side's going to want to rush it. they're going to want to have that meeting real quick before, because they're thinking the same way you're thinking.
Right.
If Mildred Fernandez gets acquitted,
Right.
Damiani's out,
He's out.
and Mildred's sitting in that chair.
Yeah.
And you know what Mildred's going to do? She's going to protect the interests of the Hispanic community,
Yeah.
even though Jose Fernandez and this guy don't.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're going to try to move that meeting forward real quick.
Right.
And and it surprises me because I understand what they're trying to do. I'm going to say this very respectfully. They did it in a way that they had to know that they were setting themselves up for a challenge.
Yeah, it was.
They're too
Yeah,
smart.
but you want to know something? People like that do it to see if they get away with it, because traditionally, people in power have always been able to run over Hispanics. Hispanics are the ay bendito, they lay back, and they're taken advantage of too often. Now what's happening is there's a big change going on in Central Florida in the last 7 years. You know that. Hispanics are becoming very vocal, very aggressive against people that try to take advantage of them. You know, so who's going to lead the charge legally?
Well, it should be Latino Justice. I hope that they do. Latino Justice used to be known as the New York Legal Defense League.
The Puerto Rican Legal Defense and Education Fund was the technical name of it.
Are they here?
Oh, yeah.
No, well, they're here working with us on the project, but they're still
Their offices are still in New York.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a clear cut if they approve the, and what would really be even more historical. Let's think of this. And this is the part that, sitting on one of these committees, you're telling the county commissioners to ignore the map that the 15 people that they appointed to do this prepared, and take one that was prepared by the public, not even by the committee, was prepared by the public,
Right.
in which a group of African Americans and Puerto Ricans sat down and made a strong Hispanic and African American district. Not the committee. This was one that the committee did not want. We basically had to force them to take this one on.
Right, right.
And the votes against this map that creates an Hispanic district, strangely, the two members on that committee who are Hispanic voted against it.
Yeah, to make it clearer for your vote. But we're arguing our case in front of something called the Redistricting Advisory Committee. And the advisory committee then suggests to the county commission which map or how the county should be divided. The advisory committee has political appointees from the county commissioners. So they obviously get their instructions from the county commission, what they want to do. Now, some county commissioners were trying to get one map to the county commission, so the county commission would only have one choice. And that was the map that we so offended because it reduced the Hispanic population from 40% or 44% to 35%. We forced them, through the activism, to offer two maps. One which was 35% of Hispanic, and the other map which is about 50 or 51% Hispanic. And that second map was voted down by Fernandez, and I think
Bertica.
And Bertica, she voted against it as well. I wasn't sure what the final vote was, but there were 5
Who is
people.
Bertica?
Bertica Cabrera.
And what is her game in this? What's her skin in this game?
Who appointed her? Wasn't it the mayor?
She may have been appointed by the mayor. I'm not sure who appointed, but all the people. We had 3 Hispanics on that panel, and all of them were appointed by some county commissioner.
Or the mayor.
Or the mayor, yeah.
So what's the interest in the mayor to dilute the Hispanic community?
I'm not sure if the mayor has that interest, really.
agree.
It would be contrary to his image, but his old advisor is there. Jose Fernandez was the guy who.
But we're not talking about the city mayor. We're talking about the county mayor.
County
Tavisi
mayor.
Jacobs. Yeah. So I don't think she has an interest in that, but they may have been clearly just pointed to do the best job. Some commissioners may have just gone there to say, I'm going to do the best job. But other commissioners there with a clear political agenda to protect the incumbent's seat.
Which incumbents does it actually affect besides Damiani?
Oh,
any others?
All of them.
All of them. So
you have to understand District 4 was, before this was what, 34% also Hispanic?
Right.
And I'm not sure in their map how the numbers went there, but I understand they also went down.
Yeah. One of the things that we talk about before maps, with the 1965 Civil Rights Act, prohibits certain practices and procedures. One of them is diluting, right? So again, in the parlance of the Supreme Court, cracking a community where you break it up into different sections, I'll put 20% here, 15% over there, that dilutes. And that's what they were done with the map that's been proposed. They've cracked us. That's why we feel pretty confident that we can win in the courts, because they've done that. They practiced. I mean, they actually went down from 40%, 44% to 35%, whereas they could have created a majority seat at 50%, and they chose not to. So we, and it's always about power. You said it earlier. Power is never given. Power has to be taken. So so if we learn the game, and we get sophisticated, we have lawyers, and we can and we go into the court, then we are on level field. If we don't play the game, and we don't know, and you're sitting there with the Ivan Dita problem, you're gonna get rolled over.
And strangely, not only this, look. It shows a lack of knowledge or whatever it is. But for example, one of the persons said that he felt it was better off the Hispanic community by having influence in all 5 districts. So basically, he said it's a good idea to crack the Hispanic vote so they could have 25.
Who said that?
That was Jose Fernandez. Actually, one of the questions he directed to me, as I was advocating on behalf of the majority-minority district, he asked me a question. We said, well, what do you think of the proposition that the Hispanic community is better off by having portions of it in all the different districts therefore they have influence in every one?
And what do you think about that?
Well, that has some merit, the concept. The problem with that is that if you're too small a percentage, you're ignored. You've got to be the right percentage to have some.
Yeah, but you got to be a real chunk of the community of the vote in order to have a percentage.
And
would that do that?
And it depends which community, because, like, for example, we had a map that I looked at that was take Winter Park North all the way down south and put a district where 60% was Winter Park and 40% was
Union Park or something like that.
And I hate to say this, the 40% can be ignored because that 60% can overcome. Look, the way they have been for years making the maps and doing the things here, even a 25% can be ignored. Even a 35% can be ignored. Let me put it this way. Orange County is a Democratic county. It is. The numbers are there. You can't change that. But still, the way they made them up, they guarantee themselves at least 3 seats of the Republicans. So it depends not only how you throw the lines, but where you throw the lines and everything. Look, Orange County traditionally has 4 congressmen. You know why? That's the way of preventing us of having any power. Because Webster's area maybe has 18% Hispanic. San Diego's area has something like 16%. Micah has something like 14%. They just cracked us in 4. And they did that on purpose. That way we have no power. And this is where the buck ends. We have to start as a community saying, I don't care if you're a Republican, I don't care if I'm a Democrat, but I am an Hispanic by birth and the grace of God, but a Democrat by choice. And I lived here by choice, but I'm not going to let myself be screwed by choice.
And all that being said, I like to throw in, we're all Americans, so that's important to understand. We all have the best interest of America, but I think the best interest of America is served when all groups have a voice at the table, because decisions are made, whether it's spending, education, all are being made, and if you don't have a voice at the table, and you're only 30% or 40% of a district, and you're hoping that your representative is understanding your issues, it's not the same. So therefore, by having someone at the table, the African American community has proven that since the 1965 Civil Rights Act was enacted, which was meant because of the movement by the community. They have increased their numbers in Congress, at the state houses, and in the city halls. And as a result of that, more attention has been placed to issues that are important to the African American community. What we are advocating is the same. We are Americans, and we all have the same problems: health care and education and so forth, but there are twists that are unique to the Hispanic community, and we have to have a voice at the table. And to make sure that we have a voice at the table, then we have to have the numbers drawn to keep our community interest intact. So whereas Pine Castle may be very interested in keeping itself intact because Pine Castle used to be an important town or important area. Well, it's less important to ensure that Pine Castle is kept together than it is to keep the Hispanic community together. So therefore, they have the newspapers and media and shows like this that they have access to the Hispanic community, and therefore they have a voice and they know what's going on. So that's why you have this. I want the people to understand that it's not a question of breaking us up into apartheid, but to ensure that there's a voice at the table in American democracy.
And I agree with what Tony's saying, but we have to understand that traditionally they have tried to do everything to prevent us from getting the power. And I understand that. It's our time to take it.
The sad part is that there are Hispanics who participate in that cracking process.
Well,
now, they have their interests. I understand that. Everybody's got an interest.
They're called Tito Tom.
Tito Tom. Are you saying Jose Fernandez is a Tito Tom?
No.
You see?
No. I say.
I didn't say it. I'm asking a question.
No. But those who put their interest before the community, we call them Tio Tom. You know where that comes from?
I'm trying to get to the bottom line here. What I want to bring that statement out. What exactly you say? I understand the Tito Tom concept. That I understand. But you're saying that people that put themselves before the community are Tito Toms.
No.
That's Uncle Tom. So you don't know out there, that means Uncle Tom.
Uncle Tom. Yeah. Basically, if that's what they're doing for the personal interest, and really, not only doing that for the personal, I don't mind if you make a buck. Come on, we all want to make a buck. When you do something that you know deliberately is going to affect the good of this community, yes. Because I will say this, I don't care where you put me, I've always fought for what I think is best for Hispanics. Now, maybe you might disagree with my point of view, and I respect that. But I would never put my personal interest first. That's why I've never been successful at running a political campaign, because I'm not going to say what is politically convenient. I've been asked the last time I ran, don't say you're Hispanic, just call you James R. Auffant. Well, I'm sorry. I'm Puerto Rican, and I'm proud of being Puerto Rican.
I invite you onto the show all the time, because you're straight up and you say what's on your mind. The same thing with Tony. You provide a legal view and an objective view to what's going on in the Hispanic community that's nowhere else except for on your radio show. I mean, that happens on your radio show. That happens, where else does it happen? I mean, where do we have a view? Certainly not on Spanish language networks,
No, because that's all. See, it's interesting about why communities of interest. And for example, if you watch Telemundo or Univision, all their programming is coming out of South America. It's so just the only thing that's produced is the local news, and even that is real quick. So in order for us, the community, to congeal, we have to have programs like this and that are locally targeted to a community so they know what's going on. That's the significance of why it's important.
What we try to do is bring people like you. I try to bring people like you. You're a lot smarter on these subjects than I am, because you've fought the wars in depth. You know what I mean? So you bring things to light that the general public does not know, or doesn't, they're not being touched by it. There's no news programming that touches it.
It's also, frankly, this particular topic of the Civil Rights Act and that whole, interpretation of what redistricting is very complex. Even lawyers have problems with this stuff. So, in truth, you can't blame the community. They're just trying to figure out what's going on.
We try to make it simple, and you've made it very simple. They're taking the district that could be dominantly Hispanic, elect a Hispanic congressman, etc. Commissioner, okay, in Orange County, and they're cracking it, breaking it down, so there won't be a Hispanic representation on the Orange County Commission.
Right.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Okay? And that's being done strategically by certain people in the community. And you're saying leading the charge is Damiani, whatever his name is. What's his name? Damiani. We'll give him the White Hat Award, okay? The Pointed White Hat Award. And Jose Fernandez, who's been looking to get back into the political process.
Well, I think he's finished.
With this one,
with this one, he's finished. I mean,
and realistically, look. But I want to say one. I want to say.
Tell you, tomorrow I'm sending out an email to 100,000 people on this. And I'm getting on the phones. I'm having my people get on the phones and really work it. This upsets me to no end.
My grandfather told me to say one thing. I want to thank both of them for one thing.
Greed.
No. I'm being very, very objective about this. They were able to unite the Hispanic community in a way that for years Tony and I wanted to do, and we just couldn't do that. I mean, we had people from the left, we had people from the right, people who did not talk to each other, but realized that this was outrageous, that this was wrong. So they helped us unite the community. So in that aspect, I want to thank them.
And I agree with you on that one, let me tell you. Because
it ain't easy.
It ain't easy. But you know what's happening? The influx of Hispanics is growing so much. So many Hispanics are coming from New York, and they're coming from Chicago, and they're coming from Puerto Rico, that it's inevitable what's going to happen here. They just got their finger in the dike, and it's going to, the dike is going to crash on them. And I think that you guys are the guys that are going to do it.
Well, that's very typical. My experience in New York was exactly that. As I was coming into political consciousness after law school, the Puerto Rican community was still a minority in the Bronx. Yet, a majority in the Bronx, but we had no representation
whatsoever.
So it was a civil rights movement that got us Herman Badillo, our first congressman, and then eventually the state legislature, and we started getting into city council. But it was the practices and procedures that were being utilized by those in power to ensure to dilute and break up our community. So that is typical of power. It's just a question of not getting upset, just getting smart, and then take them out.
Or like we did with baseball. Teach me how to play the game, I'll beat you at your game. So we'll go to court. Look, does many people even realize that in 2006, a federal court here in town found that Osceola County discriminated against Hispanic voters? Most people don't know that, but it happened. We had to take them to court. So if it's something that you think this is new or unique, I mean, we went to the Department of Justice, we fought a good fight, and today, I hate to say it, John Q., Juanda Rentas, Mr. Otero are a result of that lawsuit, okay? Because prior to that, they would have to win countywide or citywide, and there was no way they could have done that.
Well, I had a problem with the plate in Osceola County, where every county that had a dominant Hispanic population would proudly display the plate during Hispanic Heritage Month. Osceola County, 60% Hispanic, I think. What's the percentage?
51.
51. Yeah.
Okay. They didn't want to. The tax collector in Osceola County didn't want to put it up. She didn't want to display it during Hispanic Heritage Month, and she was the only one. Dade County, Broward, Hillsborough, Seminole County, Orange County. They all would put up the plate. She didn't want to. She was a political appointee. Yeah. Now, today, we just got the memo today, after applying pressure, that yes, you can put up your display materials, and we're delivering it tomorrow. And she offered to personally drive my assistant around to deliver the materials. Right. So, it's like you say, we need them to respect us as players in the political process. If we don't become proactive and aggressive and smart, it's not going to happen for us.
No, they'll walk all over us.
And I like to point out an example that we could use here in Florida is the Cuban American community. They have been extremely proactive in ensuring that they get respect, that they come out to vote, they motivate their people to understand what's important, how important politics is. They understand because they lost their country to a dictatorship, and so they're involved. And I think that that's the example that we in Central Florida are using to enhance and ensure that we're at the table.
And the chance of having people to elect a school board member who's Hispanic, to elect a county commissioner who's Hispanic, to be able to elect a congressman who's Hispanic, a state senator who's Hispanic, a state representative, that will give the motivation to go out and vote. Because in the last elections, a lady came up to me and said, well, who do I vote for, the racist or the less racist? It's like, well, you got a point there.
Well, we have 1 minute left, okay? It's been great talking to you guys. Got a couple of messages for you. Number one, if you're Hispanic, come to the show, look at the website, HispanicAchievers.org. We're going to put this all up on the Hispanic Achiever website. You guys give me the information. We'll put it up on the website. We're going to do an email blast to 100,000 Hispanics over the next 2 days. Give me the material, I'll put it up. As long as we can educate the Hispanic community on this. It's www.hispanicachievers.org. Second thing is, we have the first Hispanic plate in the nation. All the proceeds from the Hispanic plate go to help organizations that serve the community. When you go to DMV to renew your plate, get a Hispanic Achievers license plate. Okay? Again, we want to thank Bright House Cable for being so objective in supporting this program, and also IADT, the school that we tape at, for participating with us. We thank you, and we'll see you next Tuesday, and we're going to follow up on this issue again next Tuesday. This is Danny Ramos. We'll see you next week, next Tuesday night, Hispanic Speak Out TV. Thank you very much.